Hafa day and welcome to Kitchen Snack Stadium. My name is Chef Matt and today we're going to be doing two sliders for you guys. The first one is going to be a beef, pork, and pancetta slider. The second one is going to be kind of an Asian inspired chicken slider. Alright, so first off we're going to start by making the beef and pork slider. So I'm just going to take the chicken, move everything off to the side. So when I'm doing my sliders, it's best to not mix too much into your protein. The more you mix, the more you mess with it, it'll be more of a meatloaf as opposed to a burger. So all I ever do is I only add two ingredients. I add onion powder and then just some fresh garlic. You can use garlic powder as well if you want. If you use garlic powder though, I would advise to just let it sit for a little bit longer, just so the garlic powder can bloom, the flavor can come out more. So all we're gonna do is just onion powder. I don't really measure, but this is all to taste. So essentially I just maybe about putting half a cup in here. Put that and get your fresh garlic. Just go ahead and just sprinkle it throughout. So all we're gonna do, especially when you're mixing burgers, you just gotta mix it thoroughly. So just go from the bottom and then to the top. So bottom and to the top, just to make sure you get everything incorporated. Now when you're working with this, you don't want to mix it around too much. You wanna kinda just mix it until everything is blended. If you keep mixing it, it might become maybe a little bit gummy and you'll notice it when you cook it. And now, if you notice, we don't have any binders in here. I am using lean ground beef, but I am using ground pork as well. So that ground pork is in place for the fat. And it's gonna make it moist and it's gonna make it really delicious. Okay, so now that we already have our pork and beef slider mixed, I'm just gonna go ahead and put this aside and we're gonna go ahead and start on the chicken. Now, chicken breast doesn't have so much fat. So essentially we're gonna be using a binder and that's just gonna be a little bit of egg and just some breadcrumb. So all we have here, once again, is the chicken breast. We're gonna do fresh garlic. And also have a little bit of fresh chopped ginger here. And just like with the other burger, onion powder. And this one I'm gonna put maybe just about a quarter cup of it. And then for a little bit of spice, we have some sriracha. Now I really like sriracha as opposed to other hot sauces because it doesn't have too much of that vinegar. Like, it's up to you on how much you wanna put, but I like to make my burgers pretty spicy. So I'm probably gonna put about 4 tablespoons. So now that the sriracha's in, I'm gonna put the egg. Now the breadcrumb. With the breadcrumb, I just like to incorporate it a little bit at a time because I don't want to put too much in there because then it'll pretty much just kind of just have that really strong bread flavor. So just go ahead and mix it up. Make sure you smash that egg in there. As you can see, it's still pretty wet. So you take a little bit more breadcrumb, put it in there. Now the reason that we are using a binder and putting in the breadcrumb is this is essentially it's too loose. So if I were to take this and try to mold it, it would just fall apart. If I would cook it on a flat top in a pan, it would just essentially fall apart. So to keep it together, egg and breadcrumbs. You could use panko, you could use anything. I suggest just using plain breadcrumb though. Because if you use something like Italian breadcrumbs or whatever kind of breadcrumbs they have out there, it'll just kind of take away from the flavor that you're trying to get out of it. So you can tell it'll be good to go. If you could pick it up, essentially just try to roll it. If you hold it, and it stays, you're good to go. That's enough binder. If you add any more bread, it'll just be too much, turn it to a little meatloaf again, and basically it'll just taste like chicken and bread. It won't taste like anything else. All right, so now that we have the protein mix, what I did was I went ahead and I just formed these into balls. Basically, the size of it just depends on the bread you want to use. Today we're going to be using this pan de sal. So like I said, it just depends. If your bread's a little bit smaller, basically just form these to size. All right, so we have that, and I'll show you real quick. We have the chicken mixture here. So you just want to take a little bit, just about palm size, maybe about like that. Go ahead and kind of cup it. And what you do is you slowly roll it while putting a little bit of pressure on it. When you're done, when you're about to cook it, all you want to do is just take it and just lightly press down. You don't want to press down too much that the edges are going to break, and when you start cooking it, it's going to fall apart. So now that we have the patties formed and ready to cook, what I like to do is just go ahead and lightly season each side with a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make some sauce or the aioli. All right, so now that we have our proteins mixed, what we're going to do is we're basically going to make some fancy mayo or aioli, as we like to call it. All right, so what we have here, first we're gonna do for the chicken sliders, we have your mayo, we have some sriracha, then also right here, since we're gonna be putting some, as a topping, some kimchi radish, what I did was I took some of the pickling liquid and set it aside. So let's go ahead. Just a little bit of mayo, don't need too much. So just a little bit of sriracha and a little bit of the pickling liquid. Now you don't want too much because it'll make it too watery and too loose, and essentially you're gonna have to keep on adding mayo. All right, so just go ahead and just whisk it together. To be honest, that looks too light to me. I'm gonna add more sriracha. You want it to be spicy. All right, and that's that. So now we're gonna set that aside and we're gonna go ahead and make the aioli for the beef, pork, and pancetta. And it's really simple. All it is some mayo. You could use some vinegar. I like to use white wine or apple cider. Just a little splash of this. Once again, you don't want to add too much liquid because then it'll get too watery. You want this to be able to spread nicely. And a little bit of honey. Now, how much honey you add kind of just depends on you. If you want it sweeter, of course, add more honey. Me, I kind of like it in between. So once again, just mix it. All right, now that we have our aiolis all mixed up, let's go ahead, let's start forming the patties. We'll start cooking them. All right, so now that we have everything formed out and ready to cook, I just have my pan heated up here. What I have in the pan right now is just a little bit of butter, and I'm also gonna add some olive oil. Now, the reason I use butter with olive oil is because olive oil doesn't have what's called a high smoke point. In order to get the smoke point a little bit higher for olive oil so it won't burn when you're cooking and have a bad flavor, you need to add something like butter to raise that smoke point. All right, so when you cook the burgers, you wanna start off, you wanna get your pan like nice and hot so you can get a good sear on it. But once it starts getting that sear, you would want to turn it down. So all I'm going to do is when I put the burgers on here, just let it cook for about 4 minutes on each side, or 3 minutes depending how thick or how thin your sliders are. For ours, I'm going to say at least about 4 minutes each side. So now that we have the burgers in the pan, they're cooking, what you don't want to do is to press down on your patty. Pressing down on it is going to make it cook faster, but it's also going to take out all that nice, wonderful juice, like all the moisture that's inside of it. All right, so now that we have everything prepped, we have our protein cooked, we have our veggies cut, we have our sauces made. Basically, this is what we call mise en place, so everything in its place. So now that we have our mise en place and everything is good to go, now we're just gonna start building. First, we'll go ahead and do the beef, pork, and pancetta. So right here, just have your pan de sal. What I like to do, just go ahead and start little horseradish mustard. It all depends on you. I like horseradish mustard because it does have a nice kick to it. So it's kind of up to you on how much you want to put. I just like to cover from end to end on my bread. Right, next up we kind of have this little aioli, kind of like that coleslaw dressing. Same thing, just go ahead and slather it on. Not too much, not too little. And then what I like to do is I like to start building from the bottom, especially with the lettuce. So just go ahead and your lettuce first, right here on the bottom. Get your patty, thinly sliced red onions, couple aromas, finish it off with your little bit of crispy pancetta. Okay, and last but not least, it wouldn't be a nice burger without some cheese. So what we have here is we have some nice goat cheese. Now it's up to you. Some people like to put it in chunks, or you could just spread it. Me, I like to just kind of just put it on the bread and go ahead and top it off. And just to hold it in place, what's a burger without a few pickles? And that is the build for your beef, pork, and pancetta burger. All right, so now that we're done building our beef, pork, and pancetta slider, we're gonna go ahead and build our Asian-inspired chicken slider now. All right, so same thing again. Just go ahead and start with the top. Let's take the aioli. This one I like to give a little bit extra, so I will put some on the top as well as the bottom. All right, let's go ahead and start building. So, same thing again. What's a nice good slider without a little bit of lettuce? So just go ahead and put your lettuce down on there. Just the chicken patty. Thinly sliced red onions here. A little bit of Roma tomatoes. And then we'll go ahead and top it off with this kimchi radish here. Now I like the kimchi radish because it gives it a sourness, it makes it tart, has a little bit of more spice to it. You kind of pile it on how you want. We'll top it off. Then of course, pickles. All right, there you have it. We have our beef, pork, and pancetta slider and our Asian-inspired chicken slider. Now, these are big sliders for big boys, for the big game. Thanks for watching. I'm Chef Matt, and this is Kitchen Snack Stadium.